In 2018, Nintendo delivered a fairly disappointing Direct at E3, but even though the event's not as important as it used to be, the stock still dropped pretty heavily the next day. So then, after seemingly learning from this mistake, the above-average-sized den really went out of their way to not tell us a whole lot in the first half of 2019, and instead just save all their surprises for a massive E3 Direct. And aside from my dad's friend Ricky, everybody would agree that they had the strongest showing. Despite this though, Nintendo's market value still dropped by $1 billion the next day since Animal Crossing New Horizons got a 3-month delay. I would say that another reason for this is because Pokemon Sword and Shield won't let you transfer all your old Pokemon over, but the consensus seems to be that it's because of the delay for Animal Crossing. And if that's true, then the only thing I get out of that is that investors are straight up morons. Why is that, you ask? Well, pour yourself a glass of top-shelf Capri Sun, tell your uncle to start smoking cigarettes, press the subscribe button if you haven't already, and allow me, the former second youngest person on live camera, to tell you why the Switch doesn't need Animal Crossing in 2019. Saying the Switch doesn't need Animal Crossing in 2019 is easy for me to say since, admittedly, I'm not really a fan of the series. But I do still appreciate it, and I'm well aware that it's one of Nintendo's biggest franchises. So I'm sure a lot of people were pretty disappointed when they found out the game was being delayed. But the game was originally promised for 2019, and I'm sure most people were expecting it to come out around November and December anyway. So it kind of blows my mind that anyone would be upset over having to wait 3 more months, especially when the Switch's 2019 lineup's as stacked as it is. If it was a game I was interested in, then I'd be delighted to know that rather than needing a massive day 1 patch, the game would just be ready to go right out of the box. Given Animal Crossing's nature, I'm sure it's going to get plenty of updates and DLC as time goes on regardless. But rushing games out to retail is never a good idea, because even if it gets fixed later on, it's hard to wash a bad first impression out of people's mouths. And negative review scores never get adjusted later on, nor should they. So if Animal Crossing sucks at first, then a lot of people thinking about buying the game in the future probably won't if they do a little bit of research. Besides, I promise you in 1 year, nobody in the universe is going to be harping on the game's initial 3-month delay. So if you're Nintendo, then why not just get the launch right of what'll end up being one of the Switch's highest selling games? But even if Animal Crossing is finished in time for a 2019 release, I still think it's a smart idea to give Switch owners a chance to play everything else coming out this year. Because with new core Pokemon titles being among the 37,000 other promising games, the Switch is pretty booked up for every month left in the year. So cramming another huge title in to be overwhelming for consumers more than anything else. Obviously, there's a lot of people waiting for Animal Crossing to come out before they buy a Switch, but it's better for Nintendo to pace themselves and keep the momentum going rather than burning through their reserves just to sell a little bit more over the holidays. Because even though there's a lot of people who want Animal Crossing along with some of the other 2019 games, not everybody can afford it all, and most of the people that have to make a tough choice in 2019 are less likely to pick the games up that they neglected later on, because a lot of those games would feel like old news by even as soon as March. And maybe I'm putting too much thought into it, but I really do think that choosing one game over another subconsciously makes the neglected one feel like lesser than. So it's definitely best for Nintendo to space things out, especially with heavy system sellers like Pokemon and Animal Crossing. Cause system sellers usually come out during the holiday season, and there's really only 2 months of that. And seeing as how both Pokemon and Animal Crossing are capable of selling Switches out the ass as much as possible anyway, Nintendo's best bet's to space them out a little bit. And since no one's buying anything in January or February after spending so much money in the months prior, March really makes the most sense to release a heavy hitter that'll carry the Switch's load for the first half of 2020, which is a year that we really don't know a whole lot about at the moment. But with the PS5 and Xbox 69 coming out that year, Nintendo needs all the momentum they can get. I feel like none of this is stuff that even needs to be said, and I'm sure most Animal Crossing fans aren't losing a whole lot of sleep over having to wait 3 more months. But again, investors never seem to have any idea what's going on, so the point of this video is really me just telling them to calm their asses down more than the Animal Crossing fans. Because in a way, investors are kind of ruining things for the rest of us, seeing as how Nintendo's ultimately trying to reassure them everything's fine more so than the fans. It's like the $1 billion drops because investors thought the games that were shown for the Switch at E3 are the only ones that are ever going to be made again. But I think it's pretty goddamn obvious that Nintendo's got a lot up their sleeves that we don't know about. And it should be obvious that if there's enough to be excited for this year, then why not save any info on new games for when the Switch hype eventually starts dying down? If you were stranded on an Arctic island with finite supplies and you knew you'd be stuck there for 5 to 10 years, it'd be a way better idea to use just enough gas to keep your fire lit at a comfortable temperature every night, rather than just wasting it all to make it unbearably hot for like a month. So if you've got money invested in Nintendo when you're worried the company's gonna go completely out of business because of a 3-month delay on a game that will in fact make assloads of money, then I can't think of another way to describe you other than being a ninny. And if you're an Animal Crossing fan who feels like you've already waited long enough for a new game, then fear not. Because not only are there an assload of other amazing Switch games coming out this year, but there's also plenty of other things to keep you busy for 3 more months outside of video games. And just keep in mind that if Nintendo's willing to risk taking $1 billion drop just to ensure the game's as good as it can be, then it's most likely gonna be good enough to make you forget you had to wait in the first place.
Do you want it done fast, or do you want it done right?
But I'll tell you two people who never delay a game are today's patrons of the day, Aaron Ayala and Israel Basarios. And if I mispronounced that, sorry bud. If you want to be badasses like them, then consider supporting this channel on Patreon for loot boxes and silly rewards. How do you feel about the Animal Crossing delay though? Is 3 months a big deal to you? Do you feel like you've already waited long enough? Or do you not care about the game anyway? Either way, let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll try my goddamnedest to respond to everybody. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell to see more videos like this. And if you want to help this channel grow, then simply liking and sharing goes a long way. My name's Cameron, and I'll see you next time.
So I want to say thank you to your loyalty, thank you for your support.